Can you please start, do the roll call?
Mike Berlin,
He's not here.
Laura Negro is not there.
Arizona.
Blake Ellefson,
Here.
Pat Kinney,
Here.
Ron Stendor.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum today, 3 of the 5. However, our chair and vice chair are not here, so the committee should nominate somebody to act as chair until somebody may or may not show up.
This is Blake. I'll nominate Mr. Kinney, Pat Kinney, as the chair today. Step in.
And Ron will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we move item number 5 down to number 11.
You asking to put it in front of 11 or after 11?
Either one in front of 11.
We have a motion to move item 5 to in front of 11.
I'll make a motion to move item 5 down to 11 and switch that out.
Is there a second?
Ron will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Any other items related to approval of the agenda?
Use your microphone, please.
Any other items related to approval of the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I can make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
We have a motion by Blake. Is there a second?
Ron will second.
We have a second by Ron. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll go to public comment. 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone here for public comment? Is there anyone online or on the phone for public comment? Anyone online or on the phone for public comment? Hearing none? Hearing none, we will move to item 4, approval of finance and economic development meeting minutes from January 18th, 2024.
This is Blake. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 18th, 2024 Finance and Economic Development Meeting.
Is there a second?
Ron will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Going to item that is labeled 6, discussion/action on the NACO request.
Okay, I spoke to a bunch of my counterparts in other counties, and no other county is going to make the donation.
Now, we had talked about this last time and thought that there was maybe a smaller donation that each county would be giving.
Yeah, none of the counties are giving anything.
So there's no other counties giving anything? Okay.
So Administrator, would you prefer a motion denying any request then, since we have it on the record?
I would say we either deny it or just table it and not bring it back. Whichever the committee decides.
I'm in
I
favor.
think we should table it.
Mr. Cinder, go ahead.
I think we should, I'd like to make a motion, we table it.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'd second that.
Blake seconds, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will go to item 7, discussion and action on universal grant guidance policy.
Okay, Mike Konecki put this together for us. This is essentially from another county and has been vetted by other counties, and it abides by all federal rules. And Mike's on the line if you have any questions.
Blake?
Well, this is likely going hand in hand now with, I saw at the executive committee, there was approval to hire a grant writer.
Yes,
So is that kind of why we're lining this up at this point? So we're ready when they get on to the,
for this and for the EPA grant we just applied for. And it just helps with all future grants, the federal funding. I want to point out this only applies to federal grants. State grants have different rules.
Mike, you're muted.
You want me to give a brief overview of this?
Yeah, there was a long 26 pages. I had a difficult time getting through it. So if you could maybe just summarize the key
Yeah,
points. that'd be helpful.
well, I mean, this is put out by the Office of Management and Budget, and it's updated fairly often. But there's 12 specific compliance requirement, and there's a page or two for each one in here. And it's intended to provide some consistency among federal grants. I mean, some of these don't apply for every grant the county gets. Some do, some have 3 or 4 that apply. It's all different. But it provides some consistency for that the grantee is addressing each of those compliance items, is aware of them, what's important, what do we need to do, what do we have for procedures to make sure we're in compliance. So it's in part it's documentation, but it's again establishing correct procedures for handling federal money. And it's a bit of, it looks like there's a lot to do. A lot of it is a one-time thing because a lot of federal money you get is fairly consistent over the years. The human service money for sure is pretty consistent. But of course, like Dan mentioned, there's other federal grants that you can apply for. And this certainly helps that you have a uniform policy like this.
Any other
Any-
discussion,
Questions?
questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion by Blake to approve. Is there a second?
Ron will second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we will go to item number 8, discussion and action to approve purchase of iPads for the county board.
This essentially is putting Ashland County where every other county is. Most other counties have iPads for all of their supervisors. It will ensure that everybody has access to the packet. We found that people are not getting the packet because the mail is so slow. It can take upwards of 10 days to get a packet down to some of our southern supervisors. So it helps people follow along, and it creates email, it solves all of our email problems because you can have the authenticator right on there.
Blake?
I work at a small community bank, and they are behind the times, and they went to iPads for their directors. So this is and their directors have very common demographics of what we have here. So I think it's and I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible. So it's an important thing here. And I'm actually feeling like I'm technologically savvy, and I still struggle with some of the things with this county, with email and changing and authentication. So hopefully this makes it easier, because I know Mr. Pufal's here and he would appreciate that as well.
And I want to stress, any supervisor that wants to continue getting paper will still get paper.
Supervisor Cinder, any comments or questions?
I would really look forward to this happening.
And then this is Pat, it's not really in the packet, but I guess if you look at the cost for printing and mailing all of the packets for county board and committee meetings, I would assume that there's a point in time where the savings from postage and printing is going to greatly offset or not offset completely the cost for the iPads.
Well, yeah, it would eventually.
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
Ron will make a motion.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cinder. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Second by Supervisor Ellefson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, we'll buy these and hopefully they'll be ready for the reorg.
Going to item 9, discussion action on an approved list of HHSD employees with purchasing cards.
Okay, attached is a list of employees, based on their position, because employees can come and go. So and the spending limit requested.
So just maybe Steve or Mike can chime in here, but you know, there's a corporate card policy that we have as a county that's going to dictate when we give a card and then how these people are allowed to use that card and what's, you know, allowable and what's not allowable. And so I guess you guys are the ones who are kind of looking at these, or how are we deciding? Because I think ultimately for me, it should be people need cards, give them cards. The policy dictates how these cards get used. So if the people in the highway department need the cards, give them the cards, dictate it based on the policy. Is that the kind of thinking is that off base or?
Well, no, I can reply to that, I guess, Blake. The policy that we put forth last month, said that the finance committee was the oversight committee for like issuing cards. We could amend that and do it more like you're saying, if that's the way the county chose to go. I took a more conservative approach and didn't like open it wide open the way you're saying. It felt to me like it was kind of like baby steps here a little bit to get going, but certainly, you know, I agree with what you're saying. People have to be responsible. They're hired as a county employee and they have to follow the rules. There is a policy in place that says, you know, it's only for work-related purchases, and spells everything out, what you need to do to document things and turn things in timely and whatnot. But that's up to you guys, how you want to, you know, move forth. We were just following through on what we put forth last month, and these are the positions that were recommended to get a card and their monthly credit limit that they would be allowed to charge up to each month if necessary.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great first step. So I think as we evolve, you know, we might not need to have finance committee validating, you know, if someone new comes on and they, you know, spend dollars. But no, I see the conservative approach, and thank you for telling me that. I should have known that, but I was obviously not aware that finance committee was looking at these limits.
Oh, no, and that's fine. And I would also just put out there, I did get an email today from US Bank, and the county's credit application was approved. And we had requested 125,000 monthly amount. And we set it purposely higher because we knew that we wanted to kind of do it once and not have to go through that whole credit process again. As we roll more cards out, we kind of built in the capacity that we thought you might need.
Any other discussion? So this is Pat. So we are being asked to include highway in this case.
That's the next agenda item. And Matt emailed me a dollar amount, which I can show after we take care of this item.
But realistically, these are the first two,
Yeah.
and there will be additional that'll come on once we get those other, or these really the only two that you'll see using corporate cards.
I would think you'd probably have other departments want to, you know, take advantage of this program also.
So my understanding from the previous meeting is we were going to initially consider one department, just kind of work the bugs out. And then highway made a request because they often have a short turnaround on what they're looking for. So I talked to the administrator earlier today about that, and he supported that. And just as a note, I have a copy of the unamended agenda in front of me. So with the highway department, you're going to have to either display it so I can see it or
Yeah, I will display it when,
okay. So for the moment, we're asking for a motion only related to Health and Human Services with their cards.
correct.
So do we have a motion for that?
I will make a motion to approve the list of Health and Human Services for purchasing cards as submitted.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ellison. Is there a second?
Ron will second that.
We have a second by Supervisor Cinder. All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. And then the next item, it must be on the amended agenda. I have an unamended in front of me. It must be for purchasing cards for the highway department. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm looking for
Okay.
the,
Any discussion related to that?
here we go.
That one, just looking at the brief, that one looked like most all of them would then have those limits because it's more needed at the highway department, it felt like. Maybe not all of them, but so
Right, so I'm sorry, are we on the next agenda item?
So we're on the agenda item with considering purchasing cards for the highway department.
Right, so Highway made the request because they have issues with basically the mail being too slow and vendors not receiving payments in time. So Highway Department asked for these 4 individuals to have purchasing cards and requested credit limits.
Dan, you must be showing that on the screen there because I'm not seeing it.
Oh, sorry. Let me,
okay.
you got it now, Steve?
Yep, got it.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? We ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the limits as submitted for the purchasing cards for highway department.
We have a motion by Supervisor Ellison. Is there a second?
Supervisor Stender will second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we're going to go to the item that was originally labeled 5, and this is discussion action on financial consultant updates.
Thank you. Am I able to share a screen, Dan, or,
I have it also right here.
oh, you have it up? Okay.
And they have printed copies.
Okay. All right, well, I can dive right in here. So not a lot has changed since last month. Mostly the changes were on the expenditure side of things as county departments process account payable type payments for bills that were incurred prior to the end of the year. There were a couple changes noted. There have been receipts received that we would call accounts receivable at the end of the year. So state aids that have kind of trickled in January, February, things of that nature that are not reflected on here yet. Traditionally, the county has a process of recording them as cash received, kind of showing it as a credit to accounts receivable in the month it was received. And then at the end of the month, they will go back and make an entry to record that and set it up as a receivable at the end of 2023 or the prior year. I can tell you that in the general fund, when you look at the number here on the first line where it says 6,343,554 or 90% roughly collected, there is approximately 400,000 already received that you already collected January, February, which does not include your December sales tax collection either, which will be coming in here shortly before the end of February. And that should be, another 100 and some thousand. So right there is, $500,000 roughly of funds that are not on here, which would put you up closer to your budget. I can tell you some of the shortfalls in your general fund budget have to do with things you may be aware of, but like sale of stumpage in the forestry department is down. I've heard stories of markets being bad, the winter being bad, road bans now, loggers not happy trying to get their product out to markets, all that fun stuff. We also have an issue with the sheriff patrol for the Bad River reservation patrols. There was revenue budgeted there that has not been collected. We're in the process of working with tribal members to sort things out to hopefully make that something that still does happen, but that's in the process of happening. There are also a couple things that need to occur yet, and one of the things is the clerk's office charges out insurance to departments. This is done to, in an effort to get more state aid, things of that nature, and to put it in the right spot for your state report so that you generate the appropriate state aids by putting it in the sheriff or the roads or the functional area that it was meant for. So those types of things are going to happen yet, which should put your general fund right about at target for the budget budgeted amount. So I think we're good there. Human Services, I know I reached out to Amber. I know they're busy. This is a bad time of the year for them with closeout of all the programs at the state level. Can almost guarantee you their revenues are not 100% locked in yet either. But they're working through that process, which could take, probably another couple months yet even, probably into May before they're fully closed out and settled. Your county road and bridge fund should be pretty good. One of the things there that looks kind of odd because you're only at 60%, but one of the projects that was budgeted there ended up being one where the state paid the bills and the county just paid their share. It was budgeted that you'd get the revenue, which of course you're not going to get. It's just the state gets it, pays the bill. So you'll see on both the revenue side and the expense side, when you go down to the county road and bridges, you're at 55 or 60% of your budget because of that. Just trying to go down the line here. None of these other ones I think changed. ARPA, there will be some work done yet because with that, if you look, you're 600,000 of revenue and what are you? 206 of expense. I think one thing that has to happen there is staff needs to look at what we had said we were spending ARPA on to make sure that we have everything charged in the right spot. I know I haven't looked at that yet to know for sure that I can guarantee you that's the case. But in the end, the ARPA revenue will match the ARPA expense because you don't make money off of the ARPA funds. They would either go toward the project or we'd show them as unearned revenue and carry them forward and then show them matching up with the appropriate expense in the years to come. Let's see, capital funds. I know on this looks funny here, 1,815,000 versus the 1,606. It's primarily just a timing issue with the way you budget. When you balance your budget for the year, you're showing revenue. This 1,606 is actually what you borrowed in December of 22 that you're using to fund your 23 capital items. So it's already in the fund. The 18115 is what you borrowed in December of 23 to fund your 24 capital items. So it's just timing on the revenue side. And then on the expense side, if you look at capital funds, it's slightly exceeds, by 400,000 there. But that again is a timing issue because as the funds come in, projects are, bid or spec'd or what have you, and then it takes a while for them to be completed. So there's some fund balance that gets carried forward to continue the project if it's not completed. But they are all monitored to ensure that they're in compliance with, what was borrowed and if there is anything that should be a over budget type of a situation, we would need to deal with that, which would mean probably coming back to you and the county board to address something like that. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. This, of course, is not 100% complete because of those other items I mentioned with closing out things. Mike, did you have anything to add? I'm just trying to look at my notes here. I think that
Oh, I
covered.
don't think so. No. I think you covered everything we talked about.
Okay. Yeah. So if there are questions, though, we'd be happy to reply to any questions.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you guys, because if it wasn't for you to explain all that when I first saw this, my head was gonna explode. So thank you, especially on the general. You know, seeing where we're at with the general, there's a lot of noise there, it looks like. Still moving on. You know, we were with Bad River for our full council meeting, and it came up that there were some questions about, you know, you guys and working with them. And it sounded like it was just a little misunderstanding and that we should be getting that money, but I never fully know. Do you feel confident, or like, I guess that's my sense is, do we know there, are they pushing back? How does that work?
You know, I have only personally had one meeting with their accounting supervisor and their treasurer. It seems like, you know, they have some general questions. The sheriff has provided me more information that I'm going to share with them tomorrow. I have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow. You know, I don't, I mean, I'd like to think there's a sense of community and cooperation and that, hey, we're in this to, you know, do the right thing. But, you know, I'm not going to count on money till I see it, I guess is what I'm going to say. I hope it sounds like, you know, the intention is to pay it. But I can't guarantee it because I don't control it. All I can do is try to get answers and reply to questions that they may have.
Any other discussion? Well, then thank you, Mike and Steve. It's as helpful as always.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Then looking at the agenda, the next item is discussion action on the county tribal committee. Given we don't have two people here, including our chair, what is the administrator's preference here?
I say we table the item.
Is there a motion to table the item?
I'll make a
Ron will make-
motion. Ron will do that.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cinder to
table.
table. Is there a second?
This is Blake. I'll make a second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next, going to the item on discussion action on the health insurance update.
Microphone, please.
So at the end of the, we don't really need any action on this. So the health insurance end of year ended in the black.
Nice.
Which I think is the first time in a very long time. So the changes we made last year seem to have been working. So that's great news. I know the prescription drug prices have gone way down with Scout RX. So that's helped a lot. I think that's where the big difference is. The other update is our two representatives for M3 are no longer going to be with us. Kelly moved to a different department and Kristen resigned. So we're being assigned new people. We've yet to hear from them, but I'm sure that's coming soon.
Any other discussion on the health insurance update? Just as Pat, just a comment, when we started on finance, and it's all three of us here today, the county was underfunding the health insurance, 4 years ago when we started, and we're putting more towards that now in the budget. So those estimates that they were using prior to us being on finance, they're always underestimating the increases that they would see. So to me, a very big part of what this says is we're doing much better at estimating the costs in the coming year than we were 4 years ago. So we're budgeting more appropriately for those costs now than prior to that. Anything else on the health insurance update? Moving to the next item then, investments.
The updates in the packet.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item, sales tax report and review.
So this is actually another good one. There's been a lot of concern around the state about sales tax revenue, especially given the lack of snow in winter. While this is for November, the numbers are still holding up. They're actually above last year. So that's So that's good, even with the inflation and with the lack of a winter and all the other factors. You know, people are still spending money, maybe not locally on Amazon, maybe, but I don't know. But they're still,
So the first month of January is actually 2 months behind.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's November.
So we'll really start seeing the impacts of like the lack of ice for Book Across the Bay 2 months from now or 3 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sales tax is always two months behind. But still, that's promising that November is still as good or better than the last year's.
So this is Pat. So overall on the actuals, 2023 compared to 2022, there's a 4.13% increase. So roughly inflation. So we're kind of holding our own as far as the economy here with what we see people spending.
I would say inflation is definitely part of it.
Yeah.
And obviously prices go up, taxes go up. But I think, there was more tourism here last summer. And if you look at the numbers for the summer, starting in June, really, I mean, the numbers are way up. That's more than inflation.
Anything else on sales tax? We'll move to the next item then, administrator updates.
The only real update I have is the exec committee approved hiring a grant writer, and that job is posted now. So hopefully we will hear from somebody soon.
Any questions related to the update? The next item, scheduling the next meeting.
Well, so I am going to be out of town for a little bit in March. We do have a county board on the 26th. I believe it's that Tuesday, the last Tuesday in March. So if we look at the,
What works
No.
for you, Dan?
I'm just getting the calendar up here. Where is the button to move it?
The fourth Thursday, I have an airport commission, so it'll have to be the 29th would work in March.
28th, you mean?
I'm sorry, that wouldn't work for me because I'd have a airport commission at 4:30.
Yeah, because I'll be gone from the 6th to the 14th, essentially.
Do we need a meeting in March?
At this point, I don't think we do. And honestly, it's butting right up against the elections.
No. Do you want to not schedule a meeting and then if we need to have a meeting, then schedule one?
Yeah, we could make one subject to the call of the chair.
Okay.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Works for me.
All right, that gets us through the agenda. One more item.
Adjourn.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
We have a
Cinder.
motion by Mr. Cinder to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Second by Mr. Ellison. All in
All
favor?
time.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.